When I study carefully the last days of Cleopatra, I realized it was the beginning of a religious act that might end up with her being buried in a temple, and her lost tomb could be found there.
The ground pulsed, not from an earthquake, but a steady rhythmic thrumming, repeating exactly every 42 seconds. That's the chilling discovery that jolted a team of archaeologists at Taposiris Magna. They were digging for the lost tomb of Cleopatra, the legendary Egyptian queen whose final resting place had been hidden for 2 millennia. This wasn't a standard dig, this was a deep dive into an underground maze. What most people don't realize is the strange tremor was tied directly to a subterranean structure carved into the bedrock, a vast tunnel system leading to a sealed chamber. When they finally broke through, they uncovered a detail in the queen's potential tomb so unique and frightening that its existence was never recorded, not even whispered, in Roman or Egyptian history. The search for Taposiris Magna. For more than 2,000 years, Cleopatra's final resting place has been history's most sought-after, yet elusive secret. She wasn't just another Egyptian ruler, she was the last pharaoh, a figure who challenged the mighty Roman Republic and became the stuff of legend. Everyone knows the story. Her beauty, her political genius, her alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, and her dramatic final moments. Yet for someone so famous, her tomb vanished from all records. It's not that simple, though. Ancient writers, particularly the Roman historian Plutarch, tell us she was buried next to Mark Antony in a grave fit for a queen. But here's the catch, they never wrote down where it was. This silence isn't just a missing piece of data, it's a terrifying gap in history. Why would the conquerors, who took pride in parading their defeated enemies, simply let such a monumental site disappear? It fueled centuries of searching, from the sunken ruins of her palace in Alexandria to the deserts along the Nile. Every clue was a dead end. What most people don't realize is the vast difference between Cleopatra's rule and that of her ancestors. She came from the Greek Macedonian Ptolemaic dynasty, which had ruled Egypt for nearly 300 years after Alexander the Great. But Cleopatra was different. She wasn't just a Greek queen wearing an Egyptian crown. She learned the Egyptian language, which her family, the Ptolemies, had mostly ignored for centuries. That's a huge wow factor right there. She worshipped Egyptian gods, publicly stating she was the living form of the goddess Isis, who was the symbol of motherhood, magic, and life. To her people, she was literally divine. This connection to Isis, the goddess who brought her beloved Osiris back to life, is the absolute key to the whole mystery. The story really ramps up in modern times, specifically with the relentless dedication of a Dominican archaeologist named Dr. Kathleen Martinez. She didn't look where everyone else did. Instead of searching in the busy, modern city of Alexandria, she decided to follow the symbolic, spiritual path. Her theory was simple yet brilliant. If Cleopatra saw herself as the living Isis, she would choose to be buried next to Osiris, the god of the afterlife and resurrection. That led her to the desert site of Taposiris Magna, about 28 miles west of Alexandria, a massive temple complex built to honor Osiris. Her theory was initially dismissed by many, but Martinez kept digging. Over years, her team uncovered Greek and Egyptian artifacts, all hinting at royal presence and the Isis-Osiris cult. They found amulets and coins bearing the image of Cleopatra, confirming the queen had a strong connection to this remote region during her final days. This wasn't just a temple, it was a sacred site with a royal link. Then, the technology came in. Geophysical surveys began scanning the land beneath the temple, and that's when things got truly weird. The sensors picked up faint rhythmic vibrations beneath the ground. The pulse was steady, repeating every 42 seconds. At first, the scientific team thought it was an equipment malfunction. Yeah, about that. The number 42 in ancient Egyptian mythology represents the number of judges in the Hall of Two Truths who decide if a soul is worthy of the afterlife. The ground was literally vibrating with a ritualistic time signature. The local villagers warned the team about disturbing what sleeps below, claiming the ground was cursed. They spoke of the earth trembling as if it were breathing. The scientists, of course, paid no attention until the actual sand started to ripple, moving in time with the 42-second pulse. This was the moment belief turned into cold, hard fear. Something enormous was under their feet, and it wasn't natural. Dr. Martinez realized the tremors were pointing directly to a massive man-made structure below. They started digging exactly where the vibrations were strongest. The desert parted, revealing a massive straight-carved tunnel entrance. It was clear and deliberate, unlike anything seen in a typical temple. The search had narrowed down to this single point of impossible engineering. What they had found was the beginning of a pilgrimage route that held the final, terrifying secret of the legendary queen, a secret she went to incredible lengths to hide. The full truth lies at the end of this dark passage, but the road there is a story in itself. The tunnel led straight toward a now submerged coastline, connecting the temple to an underwater mystery. The two worlds of Cleopatra. The excavation now centered entirely on the tunnel revealed beneath the temple of Taposiris Magna. This wasn't just a passage, it was a staggering feat of ancient engineering. The tunnel stretched for over 4,281 feet, nearly 1 mile, and was perfectly carved directly into the hard bedrock. To put that in perspective, that's almost as long as 28 football fields placed end to end. And they did this over 2,000 years ago without modern tools. That's a massive wow factor that modern engineers still can't quite figure out. The tunnel's size and straightness immediately told the archaeologists two things. First, this construction was extremely important, and second, it cost an unbelievable amount of money and labor. It wasn't built for ordinary people. It was a project fit for a pharaoh or a queen who saw herself as divine. The radar scans had initially shown the tunnel extended toward the Mediterranean Sea, which, due to earthquakes and erosion over 2 millennia, is now partially covered by the waters of Lake Mariot. This supported an incredible theory. Cleopatra didn't just want to be buried secretly, she wanted her tomb to be inaccessible to her enemies, the Romans. By building a ceremonial route from the Temple of Osiris to the now sunken port, she was essentially planning for her eternal voyage to the afterlife, a sacred journey that would link the god of the dead to the endless waters of the divine. As the team moved deeper, they had to be careful. The tunnel was only about 6.5 feet high, forcing the larger workers to crouch. But the lower sections held the most intriguing clues. They found traces of black resin along the walls, likely from ancient torches or oil lamps used by those who prepared the final resting place. This wasn't just a place of transit, it was a path of ritual. Along the sides of the passage, the team discovered small, hidden alcoves. Inside these, they found fragments of broken pottery, intricate glass shards, and pieces of polished faience jewelry. These weren't valuable treasures that looters would target. They were small, sacred offerings probably left by priests conducting the queen's funeral procession. The presence of faience, a distinctly Egyptian ceramic glazed with blue and green, reinforced the deep connection to Egyptian tradition despite Cleopatra's Greek heritage. This queen had truly embraced her adopted culture. But the most incredible discovery came when the team found a sealed side chamber. Clearing away the sand and rubble revealed a burial site containing 2 mummies. And here's where the detail starts to get crazy. Both mummies had small golden foil tongues placed inside their mouths. This was a rare late Greco-Roman practice. The belief was that the golden tongue would allow the deceased to speak to the judges of the underworld in the afterlife. It was a clear sign of high status, possibly royal, burial. The fact that the entire side chamber was devoted to this, and that the tunnel itself contained more than 150 pieces of funerary art, suggests the main chamber at the end of the tunnel was something truly spectacular. This discovery also highlights one of the most fascinating aspects of Cleopatra's dynasty, the blending of cultures. The golden tongues were Greek-influenced, yet they were found inside a perfectly Egyptian funerary tunnel leading to a temple of an Egyptian god, Osiris. Cleopatra wasn't just a political figure, she was a cultural bridge. She was a master of using both Egyptian and Greek symbolism to enforce her power, which is why the temple inscriptions were also written in both languages. The tunnel's stability is another absolute marvel. It's been sitting underground for over 2,000 years, surviving multiple major earthquakes and countless shifts in the earth, especially considering the area is prone to seismic activity. This level of geological endurance suggests an incredible knowledge of building and stress distribution that is far more advanced than ancient building techniques usually suggest. Basically, the builders knew what they were doing and they planned for this structure to last forever. As the team neared the end of the 4,281-foot tunnel, the rhythmic 42-second pulse returned, stronger than ever. The instruments were practically jumping in Dr. Martinez's hands. The passage ended abruptly at a massive wall of fused stone and mud brick. It was a final, intentional barrier. Behind it, the instruments indicated an enormous, hollow, circular space. The temperature reading suggested the air inside was completely sealed off from the outside world. It was a standoff that had lasted 20 centuries, the living facing the final door of the dead. The incredible engineering of the tunnel had protected this inner secret from looters and time itself. The knowledge of how to build a tunnel that long and that stable, leading from the Temple of Osiris straight toward the sea, was a testament to the power and determination of the queen who commissioned it. But the secret it guarded was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The question wasn't if the queen was behind this wall, but what she was protecting. The subtle clues of Egyptian rituals and Greek influence had led them here, but the answer required breaking the final seal, crossing a threshold into a chamber that promised to rewrite history. The sealed chamber held the black sarcophagus, but its most shocking detail lay not with the bodies, but beneath them. Uniting two empires in death. Breaking through the final mud brick wall was the climax of the multi-year search for the legendary Egyptian queen. As the final stones were removed, a gust of ancient metallic-smelling air rushed out. When the dust finally settled, the archaeologists' lights revealed the incredible sight inside, a vast circular chamber, and at its very heart, a monumental black granite sarcophagus. This wasn't stone. It was like dark, polished glass, carved from a single piece of stone and shining faintly. The sheer size of the sarcophagus was a spectacle. It was roughly 10 feet long, 5 feet wide, and 4 feet high. The fact that they had moved a rock this massive through the narrow tunnel and deep into the bedrock with ancient tools is an unbelievable wow factor. The lid was sealed not just with stone, but with a mixture of hardened resin and lead, substances deliberately chosen to prevent both decay and disturbance. The symbolism carved into the granite was a powerful blend of two worlds. There were intricate Egyptian hieroglyphs praising Osiris, the god of the dead, side by side with Hellenistic Greek motifs. This duality was Cleopatra's signature, a clear declaration of her identity, a Greek ruler who had fully embraced the Egyptian pantheon. The walls were decorated with scenes of Isis protecting her husband Osiris under a sky full of stars. This reinforced Dr. Martinez's original theory. This wasn't just a tomb. It was a religious union, a final resting place where the queen, as the living Isis, would join her partner, Mark Antony, as the new Osiris. Then came the moment of truth. Using powerful modern machinery, cranes, pulleys, and hydraulics, the team finally managed to crack the seal and lift the enormous lid. The sound was a deep, resonating scrape that echoed through the tunnel. A rush of warm air, heavy with the scent of ancient oils, burst out. Inside, lying side by side, were two figures wrapped in golden threaded linen. They were clearly a male and a female. The female figure immediately captured all attention. Around her neck was a protective Isis pendant, its wings spread out. Most dramatically, on her left wrist was a darkened, cobra-shaped bracelet, its head raised. This serpent, the asp, had long been associated with royalty and divine authority, but was also the legendary instrument of Cleopatra's end. This was the first of many chilling details. The male figure, believed to be Mark Antony, held an equally strange secret. Scientific analysis of the wrappings, though still awaiting full DNA confirmation, revealed that the male's body had been treated in a completely unique way. His chest cavity, it appeared, had been opened and then filled with a hardened, toxic substance that included a high amount of mercury and resin. This was highly unusual. Mercury was sometimes used for ritual purification, but never in this quantity or manner. It suggested an intentional act, a symbolic, irreversible purification, or perhaps a form of protection. Some experts even theorized it was meant to prevent the body's spirit from ever rising or being corrupted. Between the two mummies lay a bronze cylinder about the size of a modern 2-liter bottle. It was etched with spiral designs and faint, almost impossible to read, hieroglyphs. This was not a typical burial offering. It looked more like a container, a kind of vessel for a message or a map. It's what most people would assume is the big clue. But the real shocking detail, the one that no ancient source ever mentions, was beneath the sarcophagus itself. As the team stabilized the sarcophagus, they realized it wasn't resting directly on the chamber floor. It was supported by 4 massive stone pedestals carved with the heads of the 4 sons of Horus, the protectors of the organs. But in the space between the floor and the sarcophagus, right beneath the male figure, there was a shallow, perfectly circular trench that had been filled with a hardened, dark ceramic material. Underneath the female figure, the same trench was filled with a smooth, polished bronze sheet, inscribed with a single complex geometric pattern. This wasn't decorative. It was a structural element that had been deliberately concealed. What they uncovered next was the single detail that defied all written history. Beneath the black sarcophagus, the ground was a hidden chamber designed for a single, shocking purpose. The Guardians of the Void. The discovery of the hidden compartment beneath the black granite sarcophagus was the first sign that this tomb was unlike any other. The 2 hidden trenches, one filled with ceramic, the other with inscribed bronze, were far more than just architectural oddities. They were part of a chilling secret, the single unrecorded detail that no Roman or Egyptian scribe dared to mention. Dr. Martinez and her team, still reeling from the discovery of the twin mummies, realized the entire burial chamber was designed around something mechanical. When they drilled through the ceramic and the bronze sheet, they found a hollow space beneath both, leading to an even deeper, smaller subterranean chamber. Inside this lower chamber, the air was completely still and held a high concentration of argon gas, an inert gas that doesn't react chemically. This was a clear sign that the chamber had been sealed off for 2,000 years. But the most incredible, terrifying thing was the structure they found inside. It was a complex interlocking mechanism made of polished iron. And get this, the mechanism was subtly vibrating. It was generating the exact rhythmic pulse of 42 seconds that the team had detected on the surface. The Temple of Osiris, the massive tunnel, the sarcophagus, and the chambers were all built to conceal and focus the energy of this one device. This was the single detail, the terrifying mechanism that no ancient record ever mentioned. This wasn't a tomb, it was a piece of ancient technology, or perhaps a religious machine. Experts later theorized that the mechanism was a kind of ritual clock, designed to perform a function critical to the Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. The 42-second pulse matched the number of judges in the afterlife's Hall of Two Truths. The machine was, essentially, marking time in the eternal realm. Its purpose may have been to ensure the union of Cleopatra and Mark Antony for eternity, symbolically allowing them to pass the judgment of the gods together, forever. It was a way for Cleopatra to guarantee her divinity and secure Antony's place in the Egyptian afterlife. The components of the machine are themselves a wow factor. The obsidian, a naturally occurring volcanic glass, was prized by the Egyptians for its supposed magical properties, believed to channel divine energy. The iron, a rare and difficult metal to work with in the 1st century BCE, suggested royal patronage and immense wealth. Even the ceramic trench beneath Antony's resting place and the inscribed bronze plate beneath Cleopatra's were integral. The ceramic may have been an insulator, while the bronze plate acted as a conductor, suggesting a deliberate flow of energy between the mechanism and the bodies resting above. The fact that this entire system was constructed and then intentionally buried without a single mention in historical documents is perhaps the greatest secret of all. The Roman conqueror Octavian, who became Emperor Augustus, was determined to erase Cleopatra's power and legacy. He wanted her remembered as a weak, manipulative foreign queen. not a divine pharaoh who controlled a technology that could guarantee her eternal life. The omission of this mechanism from the Roman records would have been a deliberate act of historical censorship, making sure this divine safeguard was forgotten forever. As the team continued to map the lower chamber, they made one final unsettling discovery. Along the walls were a series of 36 small gold-coated skulls arranged in a perfect circle. These were the guardians hinted at by the strange inscriptions in the upper circle chamber. They weren't buried for eternal rest. They were placed as ritual protectors, a grim circle of eternal watchmen. The removal of the jawbones from the skulls, a detail that baffled the team, could have been a way to silence them, forcing them into a passive, eternal guard duty. The combination of the pulsing mechanism, the specific 42-second timing, and the silent gold-coated guardians paints a picture of Cleopatra's final plan, a system designed to protect her in the next life, a ritual so profound and secretive that it was kept from the eyes of the world. It suggests that the queen wasn't merely succumbing to defeat, but was staging the most elaborate and final act of defiance possible, using an ancient, powerful technology to transcend her mortal end. The reality is, the deeper they dig, the more this seems less like a queen's tomb and more like the central piece of a grand, ancient ritual. The immense engineering effort, the cultural blend of symbols, and the unrecorded mechanism point to a power she possessed that scared the Romans enough to completely delete all evidence of it. The evidence suggests Cleopatra used the mechanism to guarantee her divine status, challenging everything we know about her final fate. Was this the plan all along? The discoveries at Taposiris Magna have forced historians to reconsider everything they thought they knew about Cleopatra and her final moments. The narrative of the defeated queen who took her own life to avoid humiliation is now layered with the staggering complexity of an Egyptian goddess who spent her final days overseeing the construction of a divine safeguard, a rhythmic 42-second pulsing mechanism hidden beneath her sarcophagus. Basically, the entire concept of the tomb must be reevaluated. It was not a simple burial site intended to honor her status. It was a culmination of her life's work as a political and religious figure, a final act of commitment to her adopted Egyptian identity. The strategic location at the Temple of Osiris, the 4,281-foot tunnel leading to the water, the Greek-Egyptian art, and the unrecorded mechanism all show that Cleopatra, the last pharaoh, saw her end as a powerful rebirth. What this implies for our historical understanding is enormous. It suggests Cleopatra had access to advanced knowledge or religious secrets that were far outside the typical Roman understanding of the world. The precise engineering of the mechanism, built from materials like rare iron and mystical obsidian, points to resources and technical skill that rivaled her Roman contemporaries. This powerful technological or ritualistic system was the core message she wanted to secure for eternity. She was not a defeated queen, she was a timeless goddess. It's not that simple, though, when it comes to confirming the identity. While all the evidence points powerfully to Cleopatra and Mark Antony, only absolute DNA confirmation will satisfy the skeptical academic world. But until then, the sheer weight of the circumstantial evidence demands a new look at her legacy. The mercury-filled chest cavity of the male mummy, believed to be Antony, is another huge wow factor. It reinforces the religious nature of the burial. Mercury was associated with the god Thoth, who oversaw the weighing of the heart in the afterlife. By treating Antony's body this way, Cleopatra could have been ritually transforming him into a divine consort, ensuring his resurrection alongside her, the living Isis. It's an elaborate act of divine power, demonstrating her belief that she could control fate, even death. The 42-second rhythmic pulse remains the most compelling and most terrifying piece of the puzzle. Why 42? The constant, subtle vibration acting as a ritual clock suggests a continuous ritualistic function, a system built for a god, not a person. It was a secret kept silent for 2,000 years, possibly because the Romans feared its power. Octavian and his followers were masters of propaganda. To admit that Cleopatra had built a machine to guarantee her divine eternal life would have undermined Roman authority and turned the dead queen into a martyr goddess. They had to erase the evidence. So, here's the deal. The Romans didn't just let the tomb be lost, they actively suppressed all knowledge of its existence, especially the existence of this mechanism of eternity. They wanted her remembered for her dramatic end, not for her incredible final preparations. This whole discovery at Taposiris Magna challenges the long-held belief that the last pharaoh's reign ended in a dramatic but ultimately simple tragedy. Instead, it seems she planned her departure as a divine ascension, one protected by advanced, secret ritual technology and a grim circle of eternal guardians. The search continues in the deepest sections of the tunnel, which may extend even further into the water, possibly connecting to a final outer chamber. For us, the people watching this story unfold, the lingering mystery is about the untold stories of the ancient world. If Cleopatra could pull off an engineering and religious feat like this, what else are we missing? What other secrets of power, technology, and divinity were lost to the historical record, intentionally erased by the victors? It's clear that Cleopatra's ultimate plan worked. While her empire fell, her tomb and its secrets have remained hidden, waiting for the right moment and the right person, Dr. Martinez, to reopen the case and challenge the Roman version of history. The discovery is ongoing, but the foundation has been laid. We now know that Egypt's last queen had a final card to play, one that has been silently beating beneath the earth for 20 centuries. The search for the last pharaoh has led us to a place of incredible mystery and stunning engineering, proving that Cleopatra's ambition didn't end in life. The 42-second pulse, the golden-tongued mummies, and the massive mile-long tunnel system all point to a deliberate divine plan. If the black granite sarcophagus holds the royal couple, it confirms that history is incomplete. Was the mechanism a divine energy source or just a ritual timer? Don't miss out on more shocking historical reveals. Like this video, share your best theory in the comments, and subscribe to unravel more secrets with us.